Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. As I received a lot of comments from my readers, so I would like to have a video now on how to prepare for a pre-viva, PhD pre-viva. Because I uploaded videos on how to how to prepare for your research proposal, then I uploaded videos on how to defend your research proposal, then how to prepare your PhD viva and how to defend your PhD viva. But I didn't upload, I think, the in-between video for a pre-viva. That's why I see a lot of questions. Maybe those students who are having their pre-viva, they are asking this question. So, keeping in view my readers, I thought it better to upload a video. So first thing is, handing your PhD thesis is a massive achievement for you, but it's not the end of journey for doctoral students, okay? Once you have submitted your thesis, you will need to prepare for next intellectual grueling hurdle. What is that? A pre-viva. Yes, I call it intellectually grueling hurdle. It's tough. This oral examination can be a departmental pre-viva, we can call it, is a chance for students to discuss their work with experts. Its formal purpose is to be ensured that there is no plagiarism involved and that the student understands and can explain his thesis, okay? And he is prepared for final viva, maybe. If he's good at pre-viva, this means he's prepared for final viva. It involves a lot of penetration questions, conceptually complex debates during pre-viva, and is infamously terrifying. That's why I use the word grueling, okay, in the beginning. How can PhD students best prepare for pre-viva? This is the question in today's video. As a PhD survivor myself, I have some tips for you with my experience. Okay, maybe there are 15 tips or 16 tips. Preparing for the viva, you have to see, number one, check your institution's policies and practices. That's very important. You must know every institution has different policies and practices. You must know the policies and practices of your institution. What are the university's policies and practices? Because they vary from one to another. Okay, that's why it's necessary. Find out who will attend your viva. That's very important. For example, will a supervisor attend? Will there be an independent chair? And will there be some other roles in your pre-viva? And it's better if you have some PR, public relationing, and you have approach to them. It's better you can go and meet them, okay, and ask them some questions. It can be helpful for you. Some supervisors, they respond and they guide, okay. I think you should study a book. When I was there, I studied a book that was written by Penny Tinkler and Caroline Jackson. They were the authors of Doctoral Examination Process. They have written a book, a handbook for students, examiners, and supervisors. So you should read that book. That was very informative book. It can give you a lot of information about how to prepare for a pre-viva. I think number two, I think you should reread your thesis, okay, and keep up to date with research. That's very important. Don't underestimate the amount of time the examiners will have spent reading and thinking about your thesis. However, you should remember that you are still likely to be the expert in the room on this particular topic. Check to see if any relevant papers have emerged since submitting the thesis, and if so, you have to read them so that you should be updated. Sometimes it happens when you submit your thesis for a pre-viva, the examiners take 3 to 4 months to read it. Oh, give them their time, no problem. You also have time that in between you can also prepare for a pre-viva. As an examiner, I think this is one of the important things, okay? You think that as an examiner, the examiner tend to stick to things you are an expert in when driving the questioning, okay? So your pre-viva panel will consist of all internals in a pre-viva. It is not a viva. In viva, you have one expert internal, one expert external, and one chairman, like this. But in a pre-viva, you have all internal, this is departmental, okay? Those who have expertise in your subject area, which may be in a subject field, associated or directly related to yours. If you are doing a PhD in applied linguistics, so they will have expertise in applied linguistics. The main examiner is the one, I think there's one main examiner who will ask you a question, but usually they divide the thesis in chapters between among them, and they ask different questions, okay? And you have to see how they are going on. You have to, chapter wise they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? Number 4, think about what you will or you won't defend. This is also very important. Consider carefully what you will defend to the hilt in pre-viva. That's a very important question. And what you are preparing to concede. It's important to define your claims and the originality of the thesis and its contribution to knowledge. The examiner wants to see how much you are going to contribute for the knowledge. That's very important thing. However, no research is perfect in showing that you have considered what could have been done differently or even better. It's not a bad thing, right? To understand, I suggest you to read Penny Tinkler and Caroline Jackson. They are the author of Doctoral Examination Process. They have written a handbook for students, examiner, and supervisor. I've already told you, it's a good book. Can give you a lot of information how to prepare for a pre-viva. Number 5, I can say draw up a list of possible questions, especially ones you dread. Okay, because you're preparing for pre-viva, it's a hard target. I collected questions from a bunch of different places. Okay, so I listed here 15, 16 points, then I tailored to my PhD. So I'm sharing my experience to all of you. Somebody I worked with also recommended that I put together my 10 nightmare questions. Because this is your pre-viva. I found this really useful by writing down and thinking about my dreaded questions. This which they say, doctors, sorry, you have nightmare questions. They were no longer so bad. It was almost as if I would face the beast. Okay? That's your pre-viva. Okay, generally speaking, so I don't want to horrify you. I was able to predict the question that I was asked. Okay, in my pre-viva. There were a couple that were unexpected, but they were either conceptual point or based on literature that I just didn't know. Okay, but really, one of the examiners, she was hard on me during pre-viva, but she was very nice. Okay, and she was a very good lady, and she was very literary minded and cultured, from very good family background. I think when in a pre-viva, my experience is when somebody is hard asking more questions, he's giving you benefit. That this is the thesis, and these are the weaknesses of your thesis. So you should understand them, and you should not mind it. That's the first thing in your pre-viva. Okay, somebody has already worked hard on pre-viva, there's a lot of question has, okay, so he or she has. That's my experience. Because all supervisors are expert in their field, they are highly respected because they're working on your thesis, they're finding better on your thesis. I think somebody suggested me, I read Richard Byrd, University of Bristol, because his blog, when he sat for his viva in summer 2014, I had also my viva after him. So that blog I read for the experiences. That's very useful. I don't know if this blog is still available or not, but if it is available, you can also read it. Number 6, it's not like sitting at a laptop where you can edit a sentence as you go along. It's not like this. PhD cannot be done on a laptop. Okay, by the time you finish your PhD, you will know your thesis inside out. That's the reality. One of the things you won't be as practiced at is talking about it. Okay, when I was preparing for my pre-viva, I practiced vocalizing answers in front of mirror. I was standing and hours I was talking to me on the questions, okay, chapter wise. It's not a case of needing to learn to answer verbatim. So that's one of the important thing. Okay, this word only work as a technique if you could guarantee the exact way your examiner will ask a question. but it is about thinking about how you will articulate certain things to answer the questions during your pre-viva. Okay, uh, I think a pre-viva is not like sitting at a laptop where you can edit a sentence. You go along, as I already told you. The better you go to the blog I told you by Richard Bird, University of Bristol, and he will share his experience. I'm sharing my experiences to you. Okay. So my both examiners of pre-viva were very kind to me. One of them was the best, Dr. Zarina Ali, she from University of Pahang. She guided me a lot. I mean, her questions I followed, and her comments on the pre-viva were very valuable for me. So lucky is the person who gets good supervisors, as I got a very nice and very good and highly expert supervisor, and also the examiner. Good examiner, as I told you, one example, highly competent ladies are in University of Malaysia, Pahang. Research oriented and master of research. Believe me, I did not know anything, even though I had two MPhil degrees with me. I mean, two MPhil with me, MPhil in education, and also I had MPhil in English linguistics. But I didn't know much about research. My supervisor, she made me a researcher. I have a lot of research papers now from Google Scholar. I mean, most of them are Scopus Index, Web of Science, international high impact journals. I'm working more research papers now. And the examiners like that, give you example like that, is really, she made me an expert researcher. Her comments when I read, I mean, so remarkable, so nice and excellent. So a PhD you enjoy when you have very hardworking persons working on you, as I gave you this example myself. And show you, I think, next point I was asking you, bring a printed copy, and that's exactly the same as that of your examiners, okay? And try to judge by yourself. You are the examiner, you are the reviewer, and you are the person who has to answer. This I did it, that's why I'm talking to you. Ensure you and your supervisor have a printed copy that is exactly the same as that of your examiners, specifically the same pagination, mark with tabs as the key section, highlight for reference, important quotes and impact points. This is just an example I told you can make like this way. You might want to refer to, okay, as an example, because you are still preparing before pre-viva. Do the same things as it will be done in a pre-viva. If you have some key diagram, it may help to have these printed larger on A14 or for A4 size sheets that can be used in discussion, okay? There is a chance which we call in literary terms, and in research term, we call it albeit slim. That's a term which was taught to me when I was in the university in Malaysia. That an examiner will wish to see some piece of experimental data, software, or other supporting evidence, have this all neatly archived and accessible. You can do this after submission. That's very nicely you have to do. I think in this regard, you have to study. I would rather suggest Anthony Finkelstein. He's the dean of UCL faculty. He's faculty, some faculty of, I think he is the dean of faculty of sciences, who has a blog, okay, and where he has given suggestions how to survive, about surviving viva. So that's the suggestion from my side. Suggestion is a suggestion. I can suggest, but really you have to understand my mind. Next point is now I come. This is pre-viva preparation, and during the viva, pre-viva, get out to a good start. This I mean, think about it, because we are preparing for pre-viva. But what you have to do during viva, pre-viva? Give a few details answer to the opening 15 minutes, okay? Demonstrating knowledge, describing your thinking and working. Then the examiners are likely to relax into the pre-viva, okay? If the first few answers are short and non-specific, non-demonstrating knowledge, this can begin to raise concerns. And that can, the tone they can set a negative tone, okay, for the whole Viva. And in that you will get major changes. I think this is avoidable. You should start 15 minutes, the best presentation, okay? For this reason, I will say you should study Rowena Murray. She's the author of How to Survive Your Viva, Defending a Thesis in an Oral Examination. This is the name of the book she has written. You can read that before your pre-viva. Okay, now number 9, how you will go to prepare the prepare for the icebreaker. Every viva opens with that dreaded icebreaker that is supposed to break you in gently, but often seems to be the thing that gets students into a pickle. When you will be in pre-viva, you will be in pickle, because that's hard. That's why grueling, in the beginning I used the word. It's so basic, students almost forget about it, okay? Most often this would be to give a 5 to 10 minutes introduction to your work and your key findings. That's the important thing I'm discussing with you. This is such a common question that not preparing for it would be silly. I will call it silly and idiotness. For this reason, you should study. I mean, there is a man, Dr. Bhavik Anil Patel. He is a teaching staff in one of the universities. You can search on internet his name and his comments and his books. Very nicely written. Number 10, silence doesn't mean bad news, okay? Don't assume that you will be given an indication of the outcome of the start of the pre-viva. The examiners may or may not offer comments on the thesis at this stage, and candidates should not interpret a lack of comments at this point as a negative sign. In some cases, institutional policy prohibits it. That's the main point here, okay? Penny Tinkler has pointed out in her book, which I told you, a handbook for students, examiners, and supervisors, that you don't consider that all others are maybe you are the king. Okay, you are the king, but you have to think. Number 11, don't point out your own weaknesses. This is in the beginning. I told you, maybe everybody has weaknesses. Examiners, they have full knowledge. Examiners, they have full knowledge. Or your supervisor has full knowledge. Your examiners have full knowledge. You are not superior to them. Listen carefully. You are going first time in the pre-viva. There might have been examiners in front of you who have maybe dozens pre-viva they have judged. So that's why I'm asking you, avoid shooting yourself in the foot by highlighting the weaknesses in the thesis by being overly humble. I didn't think this would be an acceptable piece of research given the way I handle or XYZ. Don't say, or by saying what you failed to achieve, okay, or did not manage to carry out in a robust manner. Just say, sorry, I couldn't do it. Okay, I will try. Okay, thank you very much. I will try. Thank you very much. I will try. I will do my best. Okay. If you have something, you say, I don't know. Very clearly, deeply, you can say, okay. Try to understand. So, number 12, don't talk like a politician. This is your viva. You are a student. You have to be judged. And somebody highly experienced is in front of you, she or he, or the panel with the chairman and examiner and your supervisor. I mean, you have to think about it. There's a danger of trying to over-prepare. Don't learn answers off by heart. By heart, if you learn something, cramming is not a solution for education. That's right from the beginning. Good people, they know from grade 4, 5, 6, okay? It removes the spontaneity and is obvious to examiners. If a student has prepared answers, they become a bit like politicians, okay? So don't do it, please. Answering questions, they weren't asked, rather than once they were. I've come across mixed views, especially on if you have mock pre-viva. Some people really like them, and they can settle nerves, because you can be nervous during pre-viva. Hard question, or the very difficult, especially in methodology chapter. So, but other times it can remove spontaneity and steal your thunder. You try to understand. So, for this reason, I think there's one author who wrote "Succeeding with Your Doctorate," Jerry Willington, head of research degrees at University of Sheffield. Yeah, you should read that book for more clarity. Number 13, you will need to move from friendly questions to complex debates. That's a technique. Pre-vivas, pre-vivas can appear friendly and then suddenly go very conceptually complex. That's the reality. The language used is an alternation between accessible normal language and really specialized arguments. The student needs to be able to move really between the two. This is a very difficult time you have to see. There is a book written by Gina Whisker. She's from Brighton University, okay, for how to survive for a pre-viva, okay. She is actually from the Department of Education and Literature, okay. Number 14, if things can get on top of you, use the excuse of having a look at the thesis, try to understand, make sure that before the viva you get plenty of sleep and eat properly and de-stress, okay? De-stress, the word de-stress, not under stress. If things get too much when you are in there in the pre-viva room, don't be confused because they also called some students, some parents, somebody others, Department of Pre-viva, they can ask others to get experience from your pre-viva. Use the excuse of having to look something up in your thesis, okay? You could pause and say, can I write that down for a moment? You have a notebook with you, okay? Stall for time until you get yourself back together again. So that's why I asked you a Gina book. You have to study that. It's a very nice book about pre-viva preparation. Number 15, focus on your contribution. That's very nice. The main examiner's main idea is to see you have contributed something to the knowledge or not. What are your studies? That's the main aim of a PhD thesis, to contribute to the knowledge, okay? One of the most important things that the examiner will be looking for in your thesis is the contribution to knowledge. It's the contribution which makes your work doctoral level, a PhD level. If you have contributed something, be sure that you understand exactly what your contribution is and that you are able to express and explain it clearly and concisely. That's the first condition. Write it down in a paragraph, discuss it with your supervisor, fellow students. Make sure that you can relate your contribution to other work in your field and that you are able to explain how your work is different, okay? So I think the author of the PhD Viva, Peter Smith, that's one of the best things told in his book. Number 16, expect your Viva to last between 1 and 3 hours. Depends, it varies from department to department. I cannot say, yes, because there's some time. For literature, for applied linguistics, for social sciences, maybe 2 hours. Sometimes if it is more errors, there are more major errors, can be up to 3 hours. Students frequently ask how long the Viva is likely to be. This question is asked to me. I said 2 to 3 hours. That is my reply by email, by comments. Obviously, the time varies from university to university. It is not the same in all the universities. Discipline differences are important. So you see, maybe a chemistry discipline, you are from the chemistry, physics, that is something different. I'm a man from applied linguistics. My background is applied linguistics, okay, English linguistics and education. So that's why I can say 2 to 3 hours. Our research suggests that most natural and applied sciences Viva, pre-Vivas were completed in 1 to 3 hours. In social sciences, literature, applied linguistics, okay, English language teaching, TESOL, whereas arts, humanity, and social sciences, sometime it happens, the pre-viva were typically less than 2 hours long, sometime. Nowadays, there's a discussion of 5 chapters, it can take many hours, 2 to 3 hours. Okay, it's, don't consider 2 hours because it can be longer than 2 hours. In humanities and social sciences also. So in the last 17, I say enjoy it. Okay, it's you should not confuse. You should not be under complex. You should not be in a difficulty. You should in the mood to enjoy hard questions coming over you like arrows. You should enjoy it. Okay, it is a sage of needles where you have to go. The best advice I ever get was trying to enjoy it. Okay, it seemed ludicrous at the time, but I actually found myself really getting into the discussion as the Viva went on. My Viva went on. I found it informative. The hard questions were being asked. I thought they were increasing my knowledge and they were pointing out my weaknesses in my thesis. But I was weak in, they pointed out because they wanted to make me perfect for my Viva. That's why I always respect those examiners, those did my pre-viva, because they worked very hard on my thesis to find out these things, which made me able to write a good thesis, to go for corrections, and then for viva. It's one of the earliest chances you get to talk someone who will not only inform your research ideally, but is also conversant with your own. It's a great chance to explore the contours of your research. Treat it as such. It doesn't seem quite so daunting when you try to understand. I would rather say that you see some blogs, Michael James, he's from the Department of Computer Science and Digital Media, Robert Gordon University. You should read his blogs. However, the time is very less. Don't forget to subscribe my channel. If you have any questions, like these questions, the students ask me, teacher, doctor, you forgot pre-viva preparation. So then I discuss with you today. To brief and summarize, in detail I point out 17 points, but to brief and summarize, okay, to sum up my whole discussion, to funnel up, I say 5-tip passing for your PhD pre-viva. Author understand what's expected of you. This is the first thing, okay? A viva voc is an oral test which literally translated means with the living voice. You try to understand what I said? Know your thesis inside out. This is your first responsibility. Anticipate the viva questions. Second responsibility. Learn about your examiner's own work. So that's will give you more information. Okay, plan toward the viva exam. Without plan, don't go. Prepare well and then go. Many months before your pre-viva, you should start working. Even if you have completed thesis, you have submitted thesis. If they are getting time after submission of thesis, they're getting 2-3 months time, 4 months, 5 months, no problem. That you are getting chance to prepare your pre-viva. If your pre-viva is good, you understand the errors in your thesis, the corrections in the thesis, and you are able to do those corrections nicely, your final viva will be very easy and will be light, not very hard like a pre-viva. That's the end. Thank you very much. Don't forget to subscribe my channel. Bye bye, and see you in the next video, inshallah. Hopefully, after looking at your question, I will decide what to make next for PhD videos. Okay, thank you very much, and bye bye. Have a nice time.